is Friday. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. So much to get to here on the show. We will hear from Phil Steele, college football expert of Phil Steele's college football preview, and we will talk college football with him. A whole bunch to get to with Phil Steele in the final hour of the program. Fred Owens will join us, Tomahawk Take, and we will talk Braves baseball with him heading into the All-Star break, and then obviously the flip side of that All-Star break and what the Braves should do to strengthen their ball club there on the second half of the season. But going into this weekend, guys, Braves, Marlins, got to have it. We said that about the Pirates, and, well, the Braves didn't have it. Got to have it this weekend against the Marlins to finish with a strong, solid performance this weekend. And if the Braves win just 2 out of 3, a year we're honoring Hank Aaron, they will have how many? 44 wins at the break if they can win 2 of the next 3. I know 500 is a pipe dream at this point, but, I mean, you know, we at least honor Hank Aaron at the break, and we can do that much.
Yeah, it's a really big series. I mean, and Kevin, you did say that about the Pirates. Here we go. We got the Pirates in town, you know, a chance to or have the Pirates on the schedule, a chance to get some wins, and it did not go well. I mean, this is a series you have to win. And I think the perfect scenario, you're talking about getting to the 44 and Hank Aaron. I mean, I believe if you sweep, you will be above 500 for the first time all season.
Yeah, let's not get all excited about that.
The Braves have not yet had a winning record yet at all in the entire season. So, look, I think you definitely got to win the series, and this is an important series for a couple of reasons. Like you said, momentum to close out the first half, and also kind of setting you up for the start of the second half where you have the Padres, you have, I think, the Mets and Phillies. You have the Rays. You have the trade deadline coming up. So, and you may say, oh, it's only a couple of games. Well, there's a big difference in winning 1 of 3 and maybe getting a sweep, depending especially upon what the Mets do. So you've got to have success here. And I'm gonna say this, Kevin. I know we can get into keys to the game, and Charlie Morton goes tonight. He's been really good for the most part. Can you trust the bullpen? Don't throw to Adam Duvall. Do not throw the ball down the middle against Adam Duvall. He has 60 RBI this year. That is tied for the National League lead, and I think 58 of those RBI came against the Braves. So do not throw it down the middle to Adam Duvall. Don't walk in runs with the game on the line. Those are my keys for the next couple of days.
And so, how many times are we going to say this is the series for the Braves? You've been saying this all year. And Kevin, I know we're trying to stay away from that 500. It's like do Snit come into the locker room and say, fellas, we got a chance to go to 500. What is that? Shh, don't go out. Don't throw balls. Don't throw the Adam Duvall. I mean, I just think for me, when I think about this Braves team right now, they're good enough to go out and win this series against the Marlins. They're also bad enough to lose it. And I think right now, their record is what they are. They're good enough to be a 500 team, and they're bad enough to never, ever sniff 500 the rest of the season, excuse me, because of what happened with the Pirates. The Braves have dealt with a lot of adversity. Every team has. The Braves, I don't know what happens. Their offense is either all or nothing. It's either on or they'll lose 15-1 to the Pirates. The Pirates series lets you know that the Braves can lose to the worst team or the second worst team, I guess, in the majors. But if they're trying to get to where they're trying to get and trying to keep pace with those Mets, you want to go into the All-Star game getting rested up, feeling good about the second half. Because Kevin, 4.5 back? You don't want that to turn to 5.5, 6.5. But isn't that baseball, though? Because didn't we say yesterday, I don't know if it was you, BJ, every team that's second in the division is 4.5 back, 5.5 back, same as the Braves. The difference is I don't know if anybody else is in the hardest division in baseball. The NL East is one of the hardest divisions in baseball. The Braves got the worst starting pitching in the NL East. Now, they might got one of the best lineups, but that lineup is here, there's hit or miss when you think about what the Braves are capable of doing. So can they live up? Forget potential. Forget get the first one. Just get the first one, control, be 1-0 today, and see what happens after that, because I do think they should win this series, but I also thought they would win the series against the Pirates, and, we know how that went.
I saw somebody say this or heard somebody say this earlier this week. I think it might have been Jeff Passan talking on one of the earlier shows where they were talking baseball, and he's like, you look at the East and it's kind of underachieved a little bit from where people thought they might be. Like even the Mets haven't scored a lot of runs despite the fact that they went out and spent a lot of money. I think they still have a very slim, maybe even a negative run differential, despite the fact they're leading the division. And he said this about the Braves. He said, look, everybody in baseball kind of is sitting back going, when are the Braves going to put it together? Like, when is that run going to happen where they kind of get it corrected and right the ship? Because everybody's saying, like, as we've said, this team is too talented, even with all the injuries, to kind of play as inconsistent as they had. He said, everybody's looking to see if the Braves can right that ship and go on an 8 out of 10 kind of run and really kind of play the way we thought they were going to be able to. And it hasn't happened yet. Now, that's not to say it won't, but again, I think being in striking distance is important. A lot of people put a lot of stock into 2 weeks after the All-Star break, BJ, obviously if you're a buyer or a seller, and I think that's going to be the case with the Braves. Where are you at? If they can continue to play consistent and go into the trade deadline, I think that changes the discussion around this team if they can continue to put it all together. And maybe you are a contender. I think also we're going to start entering that phase where, again, a lot of teams played 60 games last year. We're coming up on the spot where maybe we're about double that and you still have more to go. Who handles that in August and September the best? Where how many teams do we see potentially contenders right now completely fall apart due to injuries, due to fatigue, due to guys not performing as well as they did in the first 2 months when they were fresh, BJ? How many of those teams do we see potentially fall off a little bit in the months that count the most? And could the Braves be there to fill that gap if they finally start reaching some of that potential?
Maybe, and your depth's going to be tested, but here's the thing. If Atlanta's going to be there kind of waiting when they have their run, and maybe if some other teams start to be a little less consistent, you got to be within reach to take advantage of that. And that's why I think a series like this is so important. It's not that all of a sudden, come Monday, you're going to be in first place in the division. That's not going to happen, even if the Mets lose out this weekend and you win out. But you want to make sure you're within a couple of games. And maybe a couple means 2, maybe it means 3, maybe it means 4, but you want to make sure you're right there. And people may think, oh, okay, well, what's the difference in 7 games and 4 games? It's a lot, because understand that's 7 times or 4 times that you have to win and whoever you're chasing has to lose. So it's not something where you control your own destiny. It's I need Team X or Team Y, or in the Braves case, a couple of teams in front of you to lose so you can move up. So there is a bigger difference than you think at kind of first glance in 4 games and 7 games. And to me, I think 5 right now is kind of that mark. If you get down to 5.5, 6, that doesn't feel great. That's where you start to kind of look around and go, uh-oh. If you can keep it at 3, 3.5, 4, I think that's a more optimistic viewpoint, especially when you start considering where you are with the trade deadline. And granted, you're going to have to come out the second half and play well before we get to that point. But I think if you can make up a game this weekend, that would be a big deal.
Kevin sounded like a coach. When Kevin was saying what he was saying, like when you say things like, can you put it all together? Who are we? That's how coaches talk. Because at a certain point, as a coach will say, listen, don't be.
Correction. Kevin doesn't sound like a coach. Kevin is a coach. Remember?
I apologize. Listen, thank you for correcting me, BJ. You know what I'm saying? If I had some baby powder, I would slap the hell out of you because of what I just said. Kevin, what Kevin is saying is true. Like, who are the Braves? Yes, we've seen them put it together. They put up 21, and then they'll lose the next game. It's like, are they consistent? Because right now you are consistent at being inconsistent. They have earned the benefit of the doubt based off what they've done in the past. That has nothing to do with 2021. I remember they was the best late game heroic team in the majors 2 years ago. Then they live up now. They definitely live up to the reputation. And when they go to that bullpen, get ready, get your popcorn ready, because anything that can happen will happen. But they still haven't shown their best. And Kevin, are they a great performance away, or dare I say a great series away from hopefully coming out, because they're going to need to steamroll this thing at a certain point.
Well, I mean, we've seen instances where we thought we were on the cusp of that, right? I mean, they beat the Dodgers, 2 out of 3, and you're like, oh, maybe that's the turning point. They've had some come from behind wins, and you're like, maybe that's the turning point, and invariably they turn around and lose the next couple. And it's like they've not been able to capitalize on positive momentum in the standings. Like, whenever they do something, it's like, man, they showed that grit, determination. They came out and they won a big series against the Dodgers. And I think followed that up with might have been the Marlins again coming off that series where they just, I'm trying to think back. Well, they just didn't play their best. And look, I think I've said it a lot, BJ, even through the injuries, I think this Braves team is better than what their record says they are. I know you can make the argument that no, they're not. They are exactly what the record. I think this team is better than what their record says they are. Now, is that 20 games better? No, I just think they are better than the way they have played to this point. And are they ever going to put it together this season? Who knows? But if they do, I think they can be in a position to put some fear in the Mets. Because as Ben said, look, 3-time division champ right now. I think if they start drawing close, that at least puts a little bit of urgency, a little pause into the Mets who are trying to hold on to this thing.
No, I agree. And you also think some of the 1-run, 2-run losses are going to kind of balance out, right? It's like anytime it's the 9th inning and it's tied or you need a run, you're looking around going, uh-oh, and it kind of becomes a trend of sorts. And I think if the Braves can get a couple of close victories, we've seen a few, maybe that turns the tide and you start to be a little more confident in these late game situations, because I do think it can work that way momentum-wise. But big series, Charlie Morton, look, he's a 37-year-old, 2-time All-Star. You brought him in to win big games. I know it's July, but this is a big game. I know it's the Marlins, but this is a big game, and you need Charlie Morton to set the tone tonight.
Listen, I mean, you gotta show up at a certain point. This team is more than good enough to go out there and do it. The same thing we said in 2018, 2019. I mean, you're never going to have the best pitching staff, in your division. You still won the last 3 years. You got arguably the best player in the division, arguably, because DeGrom, my God, I mean, this guy here. But I just think that, something Kevin keeps saying, look, who are the Braves? I mean, because if I've never seen the Braves play and I say them score 21. I said, well, wait, they also lost 15-1 to the Pirates. Yeah, so I mean, I think this Braves team just got to figure out what they want to be moving forward, because the last thing you want to go into the All-Star break is being down. You're going from 4.5 games to 7.5. Just get the first win tonight and see what happens. Because and I will say this to the cows come home: if they hit Acuna, the bitches should. I'm tired of them getting hit.
Well, we will see. That will certainly be the first inning drama tonight there in South Florida. We'll come back. Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, will join us. What does he think the Braves should do as they head into the All-Star break? And on the flip side, he'll join us next all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben is one more series to go before the All-Star break, and then it's buy or sell time post All-Star break. Our next guest covers the Braves at Tomahawk Take. Fred Owens joins us here on 3 and Out. Fred, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. How's everybody out east?
We are doing just fine, getting ready for the All-Star weekend. Hoping the Braves can finish up the first half with a strong sense. And Fred, I know there's maybe a number of reasons why they've been inconsistent, but why do you think is the number one reason this Braves team just can't seem to find any traction?
Well, I think the roster doesn't have much balance to it. I mean, it was always a concern coming into the year that they were putting a lot of projection on younger players. They wanted Pache to hit. They were certain Riley was going to hit right away. There wasn't much depth behind those players. And we've had sort of injuries and slumps, and then we had the Ozuna debacle. The bullpen relied on a lot of guys who weren't very reliable in the past, and he didn't do much to strengthen that. Even bringing back Shane Green, which everybody seemed to want, hasn't helped much, and that may indicate why the other 29 clubs didn't want Shane Green either. But in terms of the team itself, the roster just, it's about 4 bats long, and after that, if those bats don't hit, then the other guys don't pick it up often enough to keep the team consistently scoring enough runs to even beat league average pitching. So that's sort of the situation we're in. We know Dansby isn't hitting his weight, Bless Heredia, he's been a lifesaver for him. Almonte was hot, and then he wasn't, and Arcia came up and hit in 4 games, and everybody, that's wonderful for that. To have not enough support for the big guys.
Fred, do you think this team has a run in them? I mean, could they win 7 out of 9, 9 out of 12 to kind of change things, or is that too much to ask?
No, I think, look, you've got Acuna and Albies, who, by the way, Albies has been the guy who's held this group together this year. Acuna's batting first is lovely, but when Albies hits, this team is better, significantly better. And so, as long as you've got Albies, Acuna, and Freeman and Riley in that lineup, and you've got Anderson and Mueller showing well and Fried coming back on the mound, you can put together a run. But they need help. You've got holes at catcher right now, and left field is still a hole out there. And as I said, Dansby isn't hitting right now, but you can carry like 1 dead bat here and there, but you can't carry 3 at the bottom of the lineup because all of the momentum dies at that. But yeah, you're about 3 players away from the
bullpen. I mean, you're gonna have to deal with that. Is there no overcoming this bullpen, or do you think if the bats get hot, they can overcome it?
Yeah, I didn't hear most of that. You echoed a lot on me there. Can you repeat that for me, please, a little?
I was just saying that when you talk about all the holes you just mentioned that the Braves are trying to fill, what you think has to be that number one priority for them?
Well, I'm not sure that the Braves are going to make a move to do this. But, if I was going to do something to get the team back, I would look hard at the left fielder. I really think Joey Gallo fits this really nicely because anything the Braves have got something in 22 and 23 coming up. So, I would look for somebody like Gallo, maybe pick up Ian Kennedy along with him out of Texas to pump the bullpen up like that. And, if you can pick up a starter like Gibson or somebody like that, it doesn't have to be all 3 from Texas. Those just on top of my head. But if you could pick up 3 guys like that, all of a sudden the bullpen's deeper. The lineup is certainly deeper because they'd have to put a new roof on the chop house with Gallo in the lineup. And it becomes from 4 people, it sort of looks like 6 now in the lineup. And, Dansby's going to hit at some point. And if he doesn't, Arcia is there to give him a try. Pache is hitting at Gwinnett now. So there's opportunity there, but you're going to have to reinforce the lineup and the bullpen to do this.
Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Fred, where are you with Dansby Swanson? I know there's a lot of fans that get frustrated with him. He strikes out an awful lot. He goes in prolonged hitting slumps, but when he's on, he's really, really good. Where are you with Dansby Swanson in this team right now?
Well, I like Dansby. I think he's important to the team. I think that the players respond to him, although more this year to Albies because Dansby's struggling. Look, Dansby's got to carry his weight, okay? Nobody gets a free ride on this. I like a lot of players that have been there and was just as happy to see him go try it somewhere else. Dansby's got to figure it out. Now, I sort of have a hunch he's not healthy, but we haven't heard anything from anybody. But, you've got to say that hitting 199 or whatever he's hitting today just isn't good enough. And if Arcia hits better than him and consistently, you can put up with Arcia's arm being not as accurate, probably, hopefully, as Swanson's is. And he's not quite the defender Dansby is, but if Dansby's got a hit, in this day and age, you can't carry a guy who's particularly hitting in the 6-hole. You can't carry him hitting under 200, under 250 actually. And so look. If I can find a place that would take him and give me something in back, and I could move to Arcia, I might do that. But I don't think he's got any trade value as such right now. So that's going to be an off-season kind of deal. If he doesn't hit, and Arcia does, and Snit wants to put Arcia at short and somebody else in left field, give him hell and do that. Nobody gets a free ride here from me. I like Swanson. I think he's important. But if he doesn't do his job, he can be replaced.
Some people are asking, could there be a scenario where the Braves consider trading Freddie Freeman? Could you see that? And is that something you could or would potentially consider if the Braves struggle in the next couple of series?
Well, James wrote a post about this on Tomahawk Take 2 days ago, and he covered it pretty well. First of all, 5. So he's not going anywhere he doesn't want to go. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you're halfway through the season. He's got his family settled in Atlanta. I know his home is theoretically up for sale there, so maybe there's that. But he's in Atlanta with his family there. Do you think Freddie would like to move his family to someplace that's not his home for 3 months and then relocate again at the end of the year when he gets a contract across the country? Or would he rather stay where he's at and do it that way? I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other, but I looked at the West Coast teams, and none of the West Coast teams are a fit for him right now. And if he was going to go somewhere, I would think he'd prefer to go back to his home state. I just don't see right now where the match is for that, where you could get Freddie to jump in and say, yeah, I'm on board with that and go. Now, I do think there's an issue. I don't know why. I can't come up with a good reason why he hasn't been extended, and that makes me think that there's a disagreement and that he might not be back next year. So if you could trade him, and that was the case, yeah, that's good because he's not coming back. But at the same time, maybe you're better off keeping him and getting the draft pick. It just doesn't, Freddie doesn't look like Freddie. Freddie doesn't look like Freddie this year. And there's more to it than the slumping start. And there's more to the chemistry of this team this year that just doesn't look right. And I hesitated to say that for a long time. And then if you could get a boatload for him, I'd trade him. But I don't think there's anybody out there going to give you that kind of return that he would accept a trade to.
Fred Owens, Tomahawk Take, our guest here on 3 and Out. Fred, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Oh, that's my pleasure. Stay tuned for the draft this weekend. We got a lot of good stuff up on the Tomahawk Take and more coming. We talked to Kylie McDaniel yesterday. We got his stuff coming up sometime today or later today.
Hey, we're looking forward to it. Fred, thank you so much.
And thank you. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. And then the MLB draft coming up this weekend. That'll be one to watch as well. We've got more to come. We'll hear from DJ Shockley next, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on 3 and Out. Braves down in South Florida for the weekend before the All-Star break hits us. We'll look certainly what the Braves can do post All-Star break coming up in hour number 2. Don't forget, final hour of the show, we're talking with Phil Steele of Phil Steele's College Football Preview. Full 30 minutes. We're going to be chatting with Phil of ACC, SEC, you name it. We're going to cover it there with Phil Steele coming up in the final hour of the program. Of course, the NBA Finals. A lot of folks said last night that was a must-have. Now the Suns are up 2-0. Can CP3 taste it? He's getting so close.
It's amazing. I mean, they've been playing absolutely incredible basketball. And you think about Chris Paul and his career, to add a championship to that. I mean, what he's doing, the scoring, the distributing of the basketball, the leadership, the big shots. I mean, it's just incredible. And they clearly look like the better team right now in the finals. And you know, I know there's still a lot of games to go, but yeah, the Suns have been just remarkable, and Chris Paul absolutely amazing.
Chris Paul, when you talk about longevity and being able to do it on every team he's been on, from the Pelicans to the Rockets to the Clippers, I mean, he seems to be the guy who has the right coach as well. I mean, and I think that, BJ, you mentioned it. I mean, his leadership, his ability to run the offense and distribute the basketball, but did the Hawks expose a fatal flaw in them Bucks? They got Giannis, not much else.
Yeah, I know it's tough. I mean, you need Drew Holiday to step up, Chris Middleton, and guys like that not getting it done. I mean, you got to win, what, 4 of the next 5 in order to get it done if you're Milwaukee? I mean, does this feel like it's over?
I mean, probably just the way the Suns have been playing, because it's not just this series, the entire postseason. I mean, the way they've been playing has been incredible to watch. So I think it would take something dramatic. I mean, it would take, obviously, Milwaukee finding a way to score the basketball at a more efficient rate. They've really, you know, the Suns have been great offensively, but also defensively as well. They've been really good on that side. You have Jay Crowder, who played at 8 to 2009, has been doing a really good job for the Suns. But yeah, CP3 obviously, and Booker, just incredible.
CP3, Booker, Ayton, Crowder, just that cohesiveness they got for those Suns team, kind of playing that, you know, putting on, playing favorites with the teammates, saying he's the greatest leader of all time. I don't think CP3 is that, but you don't see guys in year 14, 15, 16 finally get a chance to win the finals, you know, and dare I say, you know, maybe a finals MVP. CP3, man, finally, you know, get to etch his name, but, you know, Kevin Sutton, we talked about, is CP3 a top 5 point guard of all time? No. Top 10, maybe. Top 15, definitely.
All right, we've got more to come. Take 3 around the corner. We'll look at the Braves post All-Star break and more in hour number 2. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Hour 2 here of 3 and Out. So much to get you here on the program. We will look at the Braves and Freddie Freeman. Is that something they should explore in terms of working towards the trade deadline? We'll talk about that. We'll also look at some over-unders for the NFL, the upcoming season, who could hit some of those over-unders and maybe who has no chance. We'll get to that here this hour as well. Phil Steele coming up in the final hour. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, fellas, take 1. The XFL, which I know, Ben, you and I were big fans of, is planning on coming back in 2023. Will any of these alternate leagues, though, ever work?
I mean, I think so, but it depends on kind of what you mean by that. I think it's hard to look at some of these leagues and say, or any league, and say, hey, 20, 30 years, you're gonna, be there and be successful. You saw kind of the Arena League have its time, and then maybe it started to fade. I'm not really sure how long the USFL lasted. You had NFL Europe, but I think it's a good opportunity. I like there being the opportunities for guys to go out there and play professional football. I think in the short term, yes. It's hard to say in the long term, but I think in the short term, yes. And I think it's good for these opportunities to be out there. Yeah.
I do think it's going to succeed. I mean, when the XFL came back as of recent, it was COVID-19 that shut it down. COVID-19 shut down everything. I mean, not just the XFL, but everything known to man. We talk about sports, and obviously we was able to try to salvage it last year in 2020. The Rock, and I think it's Danny Garcia, if I'm not mistaken, they're not pouring their money into something that they don't think is going to work. They look back and said, okay, these are the cities we're looking to do it at. This is how much revenue we're going to need, not just from year one, maybe 5 years worth of revenue. And Kevin, dare I say, I don't know if the XFL is trying to take over the NFL. I hope that's not the case. But 250-something guys get drafted, and half of those guys going to get cut. So when you talk about how many guys from college in 2020 going to be on 2021 rosters, it's going to be 100-something guys, if that. So if the XFL don't work, it won't be because they don't got revenue. It won't be because they don't got players. And I do not think it won't be because of the product on the field. It would be because lack of interest. But last time I checked, The Rock might not be the best actor, but he's on every other film there is. I mean, I think he got another film coming out today. The Rock is in the business of making money. And I think that when it comes back in 2023, he's going to have plenty of guys to help them put some money in their pocket as well.
Yeah, I think, again, I'd have been interested to see the XFL for this last iteration was kind of interesting because I think they were rolling right along and people say, well, what about this and that? I mean, they were in the spring. They hadn't quite gone up against the Masters or March Madness yet, and it all got shut down. They were still, most weekends, I think that they were on the most watched sporting event on TV. So you talk about, well, what's going to draw this, that. During that time, when they were playing, there wasn't a lot of, they were most weeks the most watched sporting event on TV. So I think it had some good things going for it. I would like to see how it played out because, again, I think it was different enough in some of the rules and things that made it kind of interesting to follow what they were doing week in and week out. So I think it has some staying power if it comes back. We'll see come 2023, it would appear. Take 2. Obviously, the Olympics start in a couple of weeks. Should Sha'Carri Richardson be allowed to compete in the Olympics? Though she's not, but should she be allowed to compete in the Olympics?
Yeah, I think so. And, you're talking about marijuana. That's not a performance enhancer. To work this hard for this opportunity, such a rare opportunity, I think so. And I think there are reports, use marijuana to help cope with the passing of her mother. And I believe even if you're, for the suspension, which I believe goes close to the end of the month, still could have participated in some of the events. I believe the relay, perhaps one of those events. So, disappointed obviously for her, and I think she should be allowed to compete. Yes.
Yes, I mean, this is one of those things that are just very, very outdated. I feel bad for Sha'Carri, and I'm not making an excuse for her. She took a substance that was banned, but banned substance is anything that's helping you have a competitive advantage against, your competitors. I mean, she learned of the death of her mother through an interview. An interviewer broke the news to her that her mother had passed away. And like I said, marijuana is going to be taken off the ban list on mostly every major sport league here sooner rather than later because people think, if we don't ban it anymore, it's going to be widespread. I think it already is widespread. People aren't just getting caught in the system. She fessed up to it. She didn't try to run from it. I wish it wasn't taken away from her. But yes, I mean, if anybody, I don't think that I just wish she had an opportunity to go over there and run, man. I mean, marijuana, come on, we got to be better than that. I mean, we still using that as an excuse, but hey, I wish that wasn't the case. But Shakara, she'll definitely learn from us here in 4 years, hopefully.
Yeah, I was just saying at the end of the day, whether we agree if it should be or not, it isn't, and the rule was broke. But again, as you said, she should be. She would have been able to run on the 4x100 team, and don't know why that didn't happen potentially. But yeah, we'll have to wait, as Ben said, another 4 years to see if she gets another shot. All right, take 3. Tyson Fury is out of the Fury Wilder fight that was scheduled to happen after testing positive for COVID. That being said, how long would it take Wilder to knock out all 3 of us if we were all fighting him at the same time?
This is an absurd question. If 0 seconds, okay, first and foremost. But
well, that's not physically possible unless they go ding and we just all fall over.
Well, that's right. And Christian told me in the show meeting, he said that I could tag him in so that he would come in and participate. So I'm immediately getting out. Immediately.
Well, number one, BJ, you're not gonna just stand there and let him punch the hell out you. Like, I'm just saying, like, you're not gonna. All right, Deontay, let's get this over with. No, I mean, it's gonna take a little longer because it's 3 people. Now, it's gonna happen, but when it happens, I mean, BJ, you obviously want to get out of there first. So it just, I mean, so just.
No, I'm out. No, I'm out. Christian said he would come in. Christian said he would represent 3 and out. I'm out.
Well, I think this will be the one time if he didn't want to represent 3 and out, I wouldn't be mad at him. I mean, ain't nobody standing up there to have the heavyweight champion of the world punch them in the face. I mean, that's just not happening. Deontay Wilder is a knockout artist. That's what he does. I mean, I got one of the biggest targets you're going to see for a face, so he couldn't even miss me if he tried, but I'm just not volunteering for it. BJ, you said something in the pre-show. I mean, show me the saying, even if he ain't hit me, the momentum.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think if he even came close, right? Like, he doesn't have to hit me. If he came close, like, the force of his strength and power and skill would just knock me down anyway. Yes, I think so.
The wind, like the force of the wind, because there is replay, and it was like, look at BJ, like, he closing his eyes. He didn't touch
Taking a dive.
Look, Christian come up with some of this ridiculous stuff. I'm not getting in the ring with Deontay Wilder. I will talk trash all day, but if guys who are paid to be boxers cannot get out of the way of his punches, I think 3 guys on the radio, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6, we need to sit the hell down.
All right, Kevin, are you about to say you could go a couple of rounds here, Kev?
No, I'm going to say 15 to 20 seconds.
Come on, kid.
What? No. BJ, fine. Shake your head. You know how I'm confident in 15 to 20 seconds? Because I will not be first. You can bet on that. That buys me a couple of seconds just in and of itself. So, hey, the match doesn't start when the first punch is thrown. We're back in the corners, and it's ding, 2, 3, 4, walk in, touch gloves. All right, we're 5 seconds in. I'm not dead yet. Then I'm getting behind Ben. So he's got to knock BJ out and Ben before he gets to me. So
he's not going to make you, Kevin, because once you see BJ or Christian can tag in.
Yeah, it's Christian. It's Christian.
You know how you see something and you go, good Lord. All right, no, it ain't worth all that, man. I'm getting out. I'm going to leave with my dignity. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. Talk about me. But when Christian's sitting there looking like Martin Lawrence did on his show when he got beat up by Tommy Hearns, and I'm like, is that Christian? I said, no, that's the Ohio State freaking mascot. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not getting hit with that's a knockout artist.
I say 15 to 20 seconds because I will try to be the last one he hits.
Ben, do you think he can make it 20 seconds?
I mean, if I stay away from him, hold on. If I stayed away from him, like if I'm back, like you know how like they go ding and you're supposed to come this way? No, I'm just sliding over.
No, it's like I've seen, if you watch boxing, when the round starts, they go ding and the bell rings, and that's when the time starts. So you got to walk in and touch gloves, right? So he's got to dap all 3 of us up. That's a couple of seconds. Then I go, come on, Christian, get him, big dog. And then you let Christian get knocked out. And then I'm behind Ben, and Ben's taking some blows. I figure Ben can make it 9-10 seconds on his own, and then it leaves me. So I'm up to 15, 20 seconds, and then I'm getting knocked out.
I'm hugging him. You know how you hug him? Then and the ref gonna say, let him go. Will disqualify me then. Then when I get disqualified, I'm gonna say, well, I was ready. They threw me out. But now, Kevin, you and BJ, y'all gonna have to come up with the hug strategy.
Yeah.
Because
if
Christian gave me permission. He said he wanted to get in, so I'm out.
Ben, if you're hugging him, I will be the little pest on the side like rabbit punching the kidneys that he doesn't even feel. I'll be like,
you know what? Forget it. I'm gonna hug him and I'm gonna bite him. I'm not gonna bite him on the ear, but I'm gonna bite him. And that's it. We out there. I'm not fighting Deontay Wilder. And I'm gonna say, what you been him for? Because I do radio.
So how long do you make it before the fight takes place? That's all I'm saying.
I mean, it's gonna be a fight. He's gonna be wanting to fight me for now. He's gonna want to fight me for real. I need everybody to come into the ring. I need the guy that came from the ceiling, Kevin. The guy that was in the thing. I need him to say, hey man, I was ready to go. But no, Deontay Wilder, I'm not talking trash. I ain't finna say nothing that he could potentially hear. Christian Gokell got a problem with Deontay Wilder, and they need to settle it.
I honestly don't see anything wrong with 15 to 20 seconds because I already have mercenaries in front of me. Christian, Ben, BJ's just hopping out of the ring. So that just Deontay Wilder going, what is that guy getting out? Like that's 2 or 3 seconds of a mute. Like, what is he doing? So that 15, 20 seconds is not unreasonable to think I could stay alive because I would be last. That's it. I'm like the cake topper where he's like, oh man, I went to work on Ben. Now, boom. Finish it off. That's all it is.
Listen, once y'all see me get hit, because what's gonna happen is they're gonna say ding, and we're gonna be arguing with each other like, would y'all come on? And I'm gonna turn and everything gonna get quiet. I'm like, oh. And when he hit me, BJ gonna say something. BJ gonna be on the ground looking at him saying, are you proud of yourself? As currently constituted, that was ostentatiously ridiculous. And then
I'm getting out of there.
BJ gonna try to get out the ring. You know who's gonna push him back in the ring? Papa B. You will not embarrass his family.
Better get back in that ring.
Cody, this is when we need Cody. Come on, Cody. We need you for one knockout.
There you go. Cody, we miss you, buddy. We'll come back. That's Take 3. We do it every day this time, but we'll look at the Braves. What will they do post All-Star break, and what will they do with Freddie Freeman? Still don't have an extension. Is he on the trade block? We'll talk about that next. 3 and Out. Braves getting ready to roll into the All-Star break with 3 more against the Miami Marlins, and we'll see where they stand on the flip side of that series. Braves will send Ronald Acuna, Freddie Freeman, and Ozzie Albies to Denver for the All-Star game. But what about post-All-Star game? You're talking trades, potential moves that could be made. And I don't know if the Braves feel this way, BJ and Ben, but a lot of talk about what about Freddie Freeman? He is a tradable piece. You do not have him under contract after this season. Would that be something you would at least entertain? Would you entertain it? And should the Braves entertain it?
I think there are circumstances where you would at least take the call, right? Like, let's say Atlanta struggles this weekend, struggles coming out of the break, and you're talking about a team that's 8.5, 9.5 back, and the season is essentially over. You wouldn't want to do it. I mean, short answer, no. Freddie Freeman is one of the faces of the franchise, one of the great players in the history of the Braves. But if that situation were to happen and you're getting call after call, I mean, Kevin, I've heard you say it before. I think you at least have to pick up the phone and see kind of what the offer is, and it would take something extraordinary. I mean, it would take
Always take the call.
Yeah, it would take something absolutely extraordinary. I mean, I want to be clear, like you said, I don't think Atlanta's going around saying, let's consider options for trading Freddie Freeman. But if the season kind of goes the wrong direction, maybe you at least take the call. And the element that's tough to kind of find clarity with is what Fred Owens mentioned earlier in the show, where Freddie Freeman is a free agent at the end of the year. I would assume both sides want that relationship to continue. When you think about Freddie's been one of the great players for the Braves. The Braves obviously have one of the best first basemen in the league. But is there a chance? I mean, I don't think we know that Freddie Freeman tests the market, wants to go elsewhere, possibly could get more money elsewhere, and maybe he doesn't re-sign with the Braves. And I think that would be a situation that in retrospect would be difficult if, let's say, you have a bad couple of weeks, your season's over, you don't trade Freddie Freeman, and then at the end of the year he signs with somebody else and you don't get any return. That would be difficult, but there's no way to predict that. There's no way to account for that, and I think you feel like you're the favorite, I would assume, to re-sign Freddie Freeman. So short answer, no. You don't trade away one of your best players who I think still has 4 or 5 at least very good years left. But if it goes south, I think you at least pick up the phone to see if somebody's offering something crazy. And I'm not even saying then you do it, but at least you have something to consider.
I would hate to see it happen, but Kevin, I mean, when you talk about tradable pieces, we talking about somebody that can give you, I mean, a lot of players in return. Freddie Freeman is going to cost a lot of money. Now, Freddie Freeman is trying to be something that is very hard to be in sports, and that's a lifer. It's hard to play for one team. Joe Montana got traded. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you've had some great players get traded. Now, the one thing that's not helping Freddie Freeman is they've lost with you. Now, you are an incredible player. But BJ and Kevin, you talking about, yeah, you got to pick up the phone because, number one, you don't want to pay Freddie Freeman. Let's face it, they're in negotiation talks, but Freddie Freeman is going to cost a lot of money. And he's coming.
Well, hold up there, because I wanted to ask both of you about that. Let's say Freddie Freeman does re-sign with Atlanta, and it has not happened yet. What do you guys think the expectation is contractually? I mean, what are we looking at?
I mean, this is just me. I mean, I'm not comparing him to Mike Trout. I'm not comparing him to maybe a Bryce Harper. Tatis just got a lot of money. A lot. I don't see the Braves doing that, but $200 million is bare minimum, right, Kevin? I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's bigger than what Freddie Freeman wants. Look at what the market is right now, and that's not typically what the Braves do. The Braves will give a 1-year contract. They'll give gazillions dollars for 1 year, but Freddie Freeman's going to cost what 6 to 8 years. $200 million at the bare minimum. You think he's going to cost a lot? He's not going to come cheap.
Well, I mean, I think even then you're talking what in the low 20s, right? I mean, that's what you just paid Josh Donaldson. I think the contract you're talking about here with Freddie is what Ben was talking about. Are you basically a Braves lifer at that point? I.e., hey, you're 31 now. We'll give you a contract extension maybe till you're 37. And we'll go from there, maybe a year 38, maybe a year when you're 39 and see how you're doing. But our goal is to give you a contract where you will have played virtually your entire career here and possibly want to retire as an Atlanta Brave. I think that's what, as an organization, you should want to do, because there's nothing worse than trading away a kind of your organizational star, right? I mean, I'm not saying they don't leave and they don't go other places sometimes, but, Tom Glavine, he didn't get traded. He took a deal with the Mets. John Smoltz pitched for the the Boston Red Sox. All right, those things happen. But you don't go to Chipper Jones and say, we're going to trade you to the Dodgers. You just don't do that, right? I mean, they're your franchise face, especially when, kind of in baseball terms, at the very least, you would think Freddie Freeman has 3 to 4 more good, very, very good seasons left in it. Like, you're basically giving up on the face of the franchise with more prime years left. Now, is Ronald Acuna?
And I don't think the fans would be very happy at all. I think you'd have a very disappointed fan base.
Look, now, is Ronald Acuna becoming the face of the franchise? Well, yes. Freddie Freeman became the face of the franchise when Chipper Jones got out of the way. But it took a couple of years to get to that point. So I think there's no question whose team this is going to become and who kind of the face of the team is going to become. But right now, it's number 5. He plays first base. And I'm telling you, if you get him for 20 to 22 million for a first baseman that can play at his caliber, that's not absurd. I don't think that is necessarily absurd. Now, am I giving a 10-year, $300 million contract? No, because he'll be past 40. And if you can project what he's going to be past 40, give me the lottery numbers, because I want him. So I don't think it's unreasonable if that's the number. Am I going to go 25, 26, 27 million? That makes me a little nervous, but I think you at least owe it to Fred to give every opportunity to get a deal done. I just think it's a bad look if you trade him and say we couldn't work it out, because that's partially on you that you couldn't work it out either. So I would not be in favor of trading. I think he probably is your most realistic tradable piece, if you will. I mean, because you're not doing it with Ronald Acuna. You're not doing it with, there's just certain guys that you feel like, hey.
I think Charlie Morton, theoretically, if it goes south, could bring value to a playoff team as a veteran starting pitcher.
Sure. I just look at it and say, look, you don't trade away the face of the franchise by and large. And, that's something the Miami Marlins do. I mean, you're the Braves. You're better than that. You just don't typically see that happen. So I wouldn't do it. And again, you could say, if he walks, he walks. That's on him. And that's, I don't think I could trade Freddie Freeman without giving him every. And now again, we heard Fred say he's a 10-5 guy. He can shut down any trade the Braves throw out there. Hey man, we got a great deal. We're going to get a great player from the Seattle Mariners. I ain't going to Seattle. Well, that ends that, So I think there's more to it than just, do you want to move him? But I think that would be a just completely bad look for the Braves to do that, and probably not one that really helps your ball club, because he, like I said, he is the face of your franchise. When the team sucks, who gets the microphone in their face? He does. He answers for it. Like that is, there's more to it than just go stand on first base every night for 9 innings. He is a lot to that franchise, and I don't think they can overlook that.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman, I hate to use this term. Hasn't he earned the contract he's gonna get? He was the face of the Braves when he was it. Like he was it. There wasn't much else to talk about. And he doesn't mind deferring to a young superstar in Ronald Acuna Jr., but he's still the face. And that's very, very hard to be in sports. To be recognized synonymously with one franchise, that's hard to do. So I do agree. If he does walk Kevin and BJ, he would have earned the opportunity to walk, because look, man, and now it's all about my leg. I'm trying to get as much money as I can. This next contract will be my biggest one. After this, it's 1-year deals, 2-year deals, maybe. And that's what you want. And that also kind of makes I think different, Kevin. I think it makes the organization look good. We couldn't come to terms. And then when you see where he get, like, oh, okay, but you got to pick up the phone, because for what they would want back, it ain't but 2 guys on that roster that can get it. That's Ronald Acuna, who they not going to do it for, and it's Freddie Freeman. So I think by having Ronald Acuna Jr., it makes the phone call easy to pick up, not easy to make the decision. But yeah, I do agree, Kevin. If you're the Braves, You don't get listen. The Braves have had some big time. I mean, Chipper Jones and Glavine and Smokes and Maddox. You get a Freddie Free after Chipper, dude. You don't let that dude just go for nothing, man. That just shows Alex Anthopoulos. You will lose. You will fall out of good graces with everything you've done up until this point if you do indeed let Freddie Free go for nothing.
I think
and just to follow up with that, Kevin, because I want to touch on something you said, because it seems like all the rumors, if the Braves become sellers, right, on the internet are about Freddie Freeman. I mean, I think Charlie Morton would be the most likely candidate, again, if it goes badly and you're not in a good position because of his value.
Yeah, well, value and Freddie Freeman's done. You'd be basically renting Freddie Freeman potentially.
Right.
And what does everybody want coming down the stretch? Starting pitching, Charlie Morton, for all of his flaws, BJ and Ben, like, he's kind of known for showing up in the postseason. No, that's kind of his MO. Like, people were saying, look, Charlie Morton's all right. He gets better in the second half of the year. We'll see if that's a factor with the Braves. He gets better as the year goes on. And in the last few times he's been there, dude has been money in the postseason, and that's what you want. So I think there would be value in picking him up if he were to go to a contender. Outside of that, man, is like Guillermo Heredia. I mean, you don't have a lot of guys that are just going to be like full-fledged. This guy walks in and starts somewhere else. Dansby Swanson, potentially, even though he's going through a struggling time, could be a tradable piece. I think you're in a real interesting spot. That's why, BJ, I don't know if I'm going all in, selling prospects to try to get it right now, because you do have, as Fred Owens said, you have 2 or 3 pretty good holes in your lineup that are just, it's hard to go out there with the expanded playoffs, with the wild cards that the baseball has done. Like, there's more teams that think they can do it and are not going to give up good pieces than teams that are going to give up good pieces. So to fill 2 or 3 holes, that to me is difficult to do at the trade deadline. It means you're going to have to get probably at least 2 teams to work something out with multiple trades to make it all work for you.
And it is still just crazy to think about trading Freddie Freeman, even talking about it, because you're still talking about the reigning MVP in the National League and the first baseman that's starting the All-Star game for the league. So you're still talking about an elite player. I know his batting average isn't quite what it was, but it would take an overwhelming offer for, I think, Atlanta to even consider it.
We'll say I don't know how realistic it is that they're thinking about trading him, but I know that is something that's floated out there over the last couple of days and has generated a lot of chatter for sure. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out, some early over-unders in the NFL. See what BJ and Ben think about those next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. We'll hear from Phil Steele coming up in the final hour of the program as we'll talk some college football with the man himself of Phil Steele's college football preview. But the NFL right around the corner as well. We finally got some over-unders out there for you guys to discuss here, fellas. Matt Ryan, over-under 4,500 yards passing here in 2021. Keep in mind, we will have one extra game, 17th game here in 2021 added to the schedule, but 4,500 yards passing over under for Matt Ryan.
Under for me. I mean, I think he'll be close, but you're talking about 265 yards a game. And keep in mind, if you miss a game or 2 games, that's going to be really difficult to reach. And at the end of the season, I mean, is there a scenario where you're not making the playoffs, or maybe you've already locked up your spot and you don't play a game, something like that? So I just think that's a high yardage total to begin with. You lose Julio. I know Kyle Pitts is coming in, but I just think the possibility of missing a game or 2 is what worries me, especially at Matt Ryan's age. So I will say under.
I'm going to go over. I think it's going to take that for Atlanta to do to try to meet some of the expectations they have this season. That's right around 260-some yards a game. I know I know no Julio big problem, but I do think that Matty Ice is going to be able to spread the ball around with the addition of a Kyle Pitts. I think you get a Cordell Patterson in there and really is ready for that. So 4,500 yards, yeah, I will go over.
Trevor Lawrence. This one's interesting. Trevor Lawrence. Over under 4,150. 4,150 yards. Over under for Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, year 1 with Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think under. I mean, the same thing you're talking about. Do you play all 17 games, all 4 quarters? You don't get hurt. You don't miss any time. And then you're talking about a rookie. I mean, I have high expectations for Trevor. I think he's going to be really good, but that's a high total. And then schematically, when you look at Jacksonville's roster, I think they're really going to try to run the football. I mean, yes, Travis Etienne is going to be great in the passing game, but you have James Robinson and Travis Etienne. I think they're going to run the football a good bit, try to take some of the pressure off of Trevor early. So I'm going to go under.
Yeah, I'm going to go under for the same reason. If he got that many yards, that means the running game is obsolete. That means they're trying to win games through the air. That's not going to be good for him because let's face it, 2 things he's going to have to get used to doing: getting off the ground and losing games. You want to make sure he make it in 17 games, 100%. Well, as healthy as he can be. He ain't been 100% since you came out the womb. But yeah, if he's at 4,100 yards, that means that the running game is no longer, and you are doing it through the air. So for me, because of that reason, I'm going to go under.
I think this next one is just a money grab, quite frankly, but over under Tim Tebow, 12 and a half yards receiving.
And how did they come up with 12 and a half yards? I mean, he'll probably have 1 catch for 12 yards or 1 catch for 13 yards. But I think it's under. And obviously, I think the implication is Tebow going to make the team? I mean, if he makes the team, he's probably going to be the 3rd or 4th tight end. But aside from that, I mean, we're a ways away from him making the team. So because that's in doubt and he's in his mid-30s and has never played tight end ever, and we don't know if we're even going to see him on the roster this fall, I'm going to say under.
I'm going to say under because, look, I know that Darren Wallace came out and said that he would mentor Tim Tebow. I understand that O'Shaq Hennessy ain't allowed to even go out there and run routes. But, no, he's not going to make the team. I think Urban Meyer is going to realize just what the NFL or the business of the NFL is come training camp because he's going to get tired of talking about everything but Trevor Lawrence, that being Tim Tebow. He's not going to make the team. And BJ, and if they do throw him 1 for 13 yards, he's going to drop it.
Oh, man. No, 1 catch. That's all we need, Urban. 1 catch.
If he goes in the game to catch the ball in the 4th quarter when the game is out of reach, I'm going to be like, hey, you know what, Urban? You've been listening to 3 and Out. We appreciate the love, but I see you trying to
cash in. It's time to cash in. 1 catch, 15 yards, and then we can go on about our lives. That's all we need. So over or the under for Tim Tebow. This one's interesting. Derrick Henry, over under 1,550 yards rushing. Also, that sounds like a lot. Also, keep in mind, a 17th game, that is less than 100 yards a game he would need to do it. Over under 1,550 yards for Derrick Henry.
And he's going to have 1 game where he goes for like 245, probably against Jacksonville. But you got Julio there now. It's going to take some of the pressure off the line of scrimmage, I think. This guy's not slowing down. He's getting better each and every year. Tennessee wants to run the football. I'm going to go over. I think he's over this total.
I go under because the thing about Derrick Henry is you start to use him so much because you didn't have enough, through the passing, in the passing game. Julio is going to be able to take some of those touches away. A.J. Brown's going to take some of those touches away, and you don't need him to go for 1,500 yards. I mean, he went for 2,000. You didn't even come out of the divisional round of the playoffs because he got shut down. So I know he's going to want to live up to that best running back in the league coming off a 2,000-yard season, but you don't need him to have 1,500. Less is more, and it keeps him durable for the playoffs if indeed they do make it.
Okay, this is not an over-under. We move it to, but you can wager on who will be the starting quarterback for certain franchises. So let's start with the Bears. You got Andy Dalton, Justin Fields, or Nick Foles. Opening week starting quarterback, who would you put it on?
Fields. I don't know why you would be delaying the inevitable. Dalton came in to be kind of a guy that can help him come along. I mean, Foles as well. Fields is one of the top prospects in the draft. He was talked about potentially as being a number 1 overall pick. I think it's going to be Justin Fields.
It's going to be Andy Dalton, BJ, because once again, you're talking about things that make sense. The reason why good franchises become bad franchises, because they make sense is like go ahead and get Andy Dalton when you just drafted a guy in the top 10, top 11. So because it makes sense, they're not going to do it. Give me Andy Dalton starting opening week.
All right. What about the New England Patriots? Cam Newton, Mac Jones, or Jarrett Stidham? Who would you lay it on there?
Yeah, I think it's Cam, and I think Cam's gonna have a good year and be productive. Jones was drafted high, but I think the expectation is he's the quarterback of the future, not necessarily week 1 right now. I mean, you got an Iron Bowl thing going on here with the Alabama and Auburn quarterbacks, but I'm gonna go Cam.
Yeah, it's going to be Cam. And the reason why it's going to be Cam finally got a guy that's good enough to take his spot from Jarrett Stidham. Wasn't good enough to take his spot for him. Mac Jones, because of the way he got drafted, is going to become the 3rd string to the 2nd string before training camp is out. But for me, I agree with you, Kevin. Cam. Give me Cam for the win.
All right, we got one more with the quarter. This one, I think you might be most evenly split if you took, bets across the board on this one. The New Orleans Saints. Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill, Ian Book. Who would you put money on starting game number 1 for the Saints and feel good about it?
Well, I don't feel good about it, but I think it's got to be Jameis, right? I mean, Jameis has over 100 career touchdowns, and I know he's thrown a lot of picks, but Taysom Hill, I don't know that the idea was ever you're going to be the full-time, long-term starting quarterback. You're still talking about a guy who has not done that a lot. I think it's going to be Jameis Winston with his experience, and he started for multiple years in this league. I think made a Pro Bowl, right, Ben, or made one. And Taysom Hill will still be used. He has a role in this offense clearly, but starting quarterback, I'm going to say Winston.
Yes, it needs to be Winston because if Jameis Winston loses the quarterback battle to a guy that doesn't play quarterback, his days are numbered in the National Football League. If you haven't learned under Sean Payton and Drew Brees the last year, it's never going to happen. I like Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is the reason why Tim Tebow get another shot because they think that everybody can do it. Sean Payton offense is that good to where Taysom Hill can not only play quarterback, he can throw touchdowns against the Atlanta Falcons defense. But, yeah, it's going to be Jameis Winston because New Orleans is a team that is trying to be able to go to say they're going to be all right without Drew Brees. So it's going to be Jameis, even though Taysom will get to come in and do his little gadget plays.
That one is going to be interesting. I know Ben's a big fan of the 30-30 club that Jameis is a part of, but I mean that one could be very interesting coming down to week 1, how it all shapes up. That's some fun over-unders here as we head through the offseason. We had some odds on defensive and offensive rookies of the year. We're up against it. Who would you bet on offensive rookie of the year? You guys have the list in front of you. I sent it to you. Offensive rookie of the year, who would you put it on?
I'll go Kyle Pitts offense, Jamin Davis defense.
I'll go Najee Harris offense. I'll go Kwity Paye defense.
Awesome, variation in picks there as well. We'll come back. Much more to come here on 3 and Out on this Friday. Phil Steele in the final hour and more all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. Oh, we've got Phil Steele coming up in the final hour of 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Talking SEC, ACC. We're going to spend a full half hour with Phil Steele talking college football with him. Always excited. Kind of makes me feel like college football is right there around the corner. Nobody certainly does it any better than what Phil Steele does, getting you ready for college football. So we'll have him coming up in the final hour of the program. Also, this weekend between the Braves and the NBA Finals, it's not the most widely publicized draft out there, BJ and Ben, but the MLB draft starts on Sunday, going into Monday and Tuesday. And right here in coastal Georgia, Carter Holton out of Benedictine looks to get drafted. I was reading up some pre-draft prospectus, and one outlet had him going in the second round to the Atlanta Braves. That would be awful nice if that happens. But MLB.com had him in the top 130 high school prospects in the country. So, again, I don't think it's a matter of if, but when we hear that young man's name called this weekend by a professional team in the MLB draft.
Yeah, gonna be picked soon. Gonna be picked pretty early, and like you said, at least one mock draft out there that has him going to the Braves. That's just exciting to think about. But you're talking about a left-hander, right, Kevin? A guy that left-handed pitching is always valued. You're talking about a guy that has a nice off-speed kind of resume. That I think there was a couple of comps that you saw, maybe a comparison to Brad Hand in terms of a projection. But left-handed pitching always valuable, and Ben, certainly you know what it's like to be right there waiting for that draft.
Yeah, I'm root for everybody involved. I'm pretty sure, Kevin. Those guys out of Vanderbilt going to be coming off the board very, very quickly. When you look at what they was able to do, keeping that Vanderbilt baseball tradition going. But look, shout out to everybody talking about enough. There are a lot of guys gonna be having their eyes glued to the TV screen, trying to see if their name's gonna be called. I don't know how many rounds there are. I know there are a lot of rounds in baseball. But shout out to everybody who even put themselves in the position, because I know how hard it is to even hear your name called. So, hear your name called, don't hear your name called. You guys have done all you could do. Now you just got to do what nobody wants to do, especially as young men, and that is patiently wait for your phone to ring. I hope it does.
And again, we'll have to wait and see if we see Carter Holton's name called at some point there in the not too distant future. Again, led Benedictine to the championship series there in Atlanta. And again, they came up just a little bit short, but we will see what happens if he gets his name called early in that round. But again, top 2 rounds, as you said, he's committed to Vanderbilt. He's going to see some Vanderbilt guys, as you said, Ben, come off pretty quickly in that draft, and we'll see where he gets his name called at the end of all that as well. But the Braves coming up this weekend in South Florida, obviously that is huge for them, and then we'll also through the draft get to see what they decide to do about their future in the draft, and that's where it's tricky. We heard Fred Owens say, well, maybe if you lose Freddie Freeman at the end of the year, you could get a compensatory draft pick. Problem with that is, just like with the draft, it could take you 2, 3, 4 years before you kind of see that direct payoff of those draft picks.
And I know this is macro, but just every draft, man, focus on pitching. I think pitching is so important. You win games, you lose games with starting pitching, especially. And I think when you talk about the draft, so many rounds, Ben, certainly you want to value field players. But I think early on, if you can get a couple of pitchers, that's always a good philosophy to have.
I would just say be multi-faceted, be a jack of many trades and a master of none. Because last time I checked, wasn't Bryce Harper, didn't he used to be a catcher? I'm just saying, like, that's what he wanted to be. I think his career turned out pretty good. So just be able to go out there and play a lot of positions, because Turney got everybody thinking if you could, a great pitcher and leading the league in homers, that can't be the standard. But those are the type of players you got to deal with these days. Certainly.
And again, we'll see what the Braves can do here coming out of the All-Star break at the end of the day. We've got so much more to come here on 3 and Out. Coming up in the final hour, Phil Steele, really looking forward to this, BJ, as Phil, just a bastion of college football knowledge here. It's like, hey, I got my number 3 set of line. How do you remember they were your number 16 set of DBs? And you're like, it's amazing the knowledge how he brings to the college football game.
Phil remembers everything. He knows his number 17 collection of linemen from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, it's amazing. Looking forward to the conversation. Going to talk some SEC, some ACC, also some Sun Belt football as well.
Yeah, we've got more to come here on 3 Now. If you missed any portion of the show, go to ESPNCoastal.com, Spotify, You can also go to our YouTube page, get a podcasted version of the show each and every day. So if you missed our conversation with Fred Owens, or you're going to maybe miss our conversation with Phil Steele, you can catch that there, podcasted version each and every day. Final hour coming up, 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network.